Michael and Dave, the Golden Walnut of Wisdom. A winged wisdom production. On a brisk afternoon, Michael and Dave set off on one of their infamous misadventures, this time in search of a treasure supposedly hidden in the city park. Michael, as usual, wore his lucky yellow cap backward, and Dave, the pigeon, fluffed his feathers with a certain air of confidence. "Oi, Michael, it's got to be around here somewhere," Dave cooed, pecking at the ground. "Of course, Dave. They say it's buried right beneath the statue in the middle of the fountain," Michael responded, overly enthusiastic. Just as they neared the fountain, a distinguished figure caught their attention. Out from behind a tree stepped Mr. Bojangles, a dignified German shepherd with a monocle glinting in the sunlight, a neatly pressed suit, and a top hat perched elegantly on his head. He adjusted his monocle and cleared his throat with the poise of a royal butler. "Good day, chaps," he greeted them in a posh British accent, his voice a smooth blend of sophistication and patience. "Might I inquire what you're doing digging about like squirrels in spring?" "Oh, who's this posh pooch?" Dave whispered to Michael, chuckling. "Name's Mr. Bojangles," the German shepherd responded coolly, overhearing. "And you must be Michael and Dave, if I'm not mistaken?" He lifted his eyebrow at the pigeon, who gave a smug nod. Michael stepped forward. "We're on an adventure to find the legendary Golden Walnut of Wisdom." Mr. Bojangles' monocle nearly slipped. "The what?" "The Golden Walnut of Wisdom," Dave chirped, flapping his wings excitedly. "They say it gives the bearer eternal smarts." Mr. Bojangles let out a sigh, the weight of his common sense crushing the absurdity of their mission. "Gentlemen, I must inform you that there is no such thing. I fear you're barking up the wrong tree." "Oh, come now, Bojangles," Michael grinned. "You're British. Aren't you supposed to like this sort of whimsical mystery?" Mr. Bojangles pinched the bridge of his nose with his paw. "British or not, common sense is universal, my dear fellow." But despite his better judgment, Mr. Bojangles found himself drawn into their ridiculous quest. He led the way, begrudgingly, guiding them away from hazardous areas they mistakenly thought looked promising. Soon, however, their treasure hunt took an unexpected twist when they accidentally stumbled upon a group of shady raccoons huddled near a tree. "Oh," whispered Dave. "Those blokes look like trouble." Michael puffed out his chest. "Not to worry. Mr. Bojangles here will sort 'em out with his fancy British talks." Mr. Bojangles sighed but composed himself. He strode up to the raccoons, cleared his throat, and spoke in his most commanding tone. "Good evening, gentlemen. Might I suggest you scurry along?" One of the raccoons scoffed. "Or what, fancy dog? You gonna recite us a sonnet?" Mr. Bojangles narrowed his eyes. "Or you'll have the unfortunate pleasure of meeting my teeth." He bared his fangs with a surprisingly fierce snarl that sent the raccoons scampering. Michael and Dave cheered. "You really do have the brains of this operation." Michael grinned. Mr. Bojangles chuckled, shaking his head. One must be sensible when surrounded by such splendid silliness. He couldn't help but smile as they continued their adventure, the trio an unlikely team, foolish, feathered, and finely dressed. After their encounter with the raccoons, the trio continued their journey through the park, Mr. Bojangles leading with a mixture of reluctance and bemusement, while Michael and Dave followed close behind, whispering excitedly about their next steps. Eventually, they arrived at an ancient oak tree that loomed over the park's center like a monument. Michael pointed dramatically at the gnarled roots. "This has to be it. The legendary golden walnut must be buried right here." Dave hopped around in circles, his eyes wide with excitement. "Oh, it's going to be glorious, Michael. We'll be the smartest pigeon and human in all the land." Mr. Bojangles let out a low groan. "Gentlemen, I must insist. This so-called walnut is almost certainly a flight of fancy." Ignoring him, Michael grabbed a nearby stick and started digging at the base of the tree, while Dave watched and clucked encouragement. "A little to the left. Maybe under that root." Mr. Bojangles raised his paw, about to suggest they abandon this folly, when he noticed something glinting beneath the dirt Michael was furiously churning up. "Hold on, what's that?" Michael's eyes widened as he spotted the glimmer.
Bo!
I think we've found it. With a triumphant pull, he extracted a small, oddly shaped object covered in dirt. He wiped it clean to reveal a walnut with a faint golden shimmer. Dave gasped. Is it really the Golden Walnut of Wisdom? Mr. Bojangles squinted through his monocle. Well, it's certainly a walnut. As for wisdom, I'll reserve judgment. With bated breath, Michael held it up and closed his eyes, as if waiting for a flash of enlightenment. Nothing happened. Dave leaned in, squinting at the walnut. Maybe I have to crack it open for it to work? Michael nodded and gave it a tentative tap against the tree. Just then, the walnut began to glow faintly, emitting a soft hum. The three stared at it dumbfounded. Mr. Bojangles took a cautious step back. I must admit, I didn't expect whatever this is. Suddenly, the walnut cracked open, releasing a small puff of shimmering dust. It hung in the air for a moment before descending on all three of them. They sneezed, spluttering as the dust settled over their heads. As the dust cleared, Michael's face lit up. Did it work? Do I feel smarter? He looked around, eyebrows knitted in thought. You know, I've been thinking about the Pythagorean theorem lately. Mr. Bojangles blinked, thoroughly astonished. Well, that's unexpected. Dave, meanwhile, was pacing back and forth, his pigeon mind suddenly whirring with new ideas. I've always wondered, why do we pigeons keep pooping on statues when we could, instead, be aiming for rooftops? Strategically speaking, it's much more effective. Michael grinned, and for the first time, Mr. Bojangles looked genuinely impressed. Perhaps this walnut truly does grant wisdom, though I dare say it's limited in its effects. As they turned to leave, still pondering their newfound insights, Dave chuckled. You know, Bojangles, maybe you should have had the walnut to yourself. Imagine the knowledge you could have had. Mr. Bojangles gave a rare laugh, tipping his top hat. Oh, I think I'll leave the extraordinary thinking to you too. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And stay tuned for more videos.